Welcome, Black Sheep, to your Sunday tarot reading. My name is Roshni. I'm a self-worth coach and tarot reader for Black Sheep and Cycle Breakers. And this community is really here to recreate the version of themselves that they actually want to be after surviving their fucked up childhood. So let's go ahead and get into today's reading. I'm going to start shuffling as I'm talking because I've been realizing that I frequently get stuck in a thought loop, and I feel like a lot of you as Black Sheep and Cycle Breakers do too. I've heard this kind of thing in a lot of client sessions, and it's just been coming up for me so much that I think it may be coming up for you too. And it's really the idea that no matter how well things are going, it always kind of comes back to this feeling of not being there yet. And so you might have, a lot of deep gratitude for your life. You might feel like you can recognize the good things, like you can hold space for the good things. You're even maybe bringing in more good into your life. You're allowing yourself to be more open and trusting and to return that gratitude and appreciation to other people in your life. But the problem is that at a certain point, those things kind of peter off. And in those little downtime moments, or when something starts to go wrong, you start to think it's going to be better when I'm there, or why am I not there? Or you start kind of, and maybe it's not even so much about being there, but it comes back to this feeling of it's going to be different for me at a certain point, or, I'm going to have to be a different person to be in it feels like a before and after. And we could all have different projections of what that before after feeling is. But no matter where we are and how much we dreamed of being where we are right now, we still are always looking ahead. And I don't think that's a bad thing, but it does turn bad when we kind of project that not enoughness into our present, right? And so I really feel like I'm not the only one who's gone through this or who's experiencing this. And so I wanted to ask Spirit in this reading, what do they want us to know about this feeling and about this situation? And how can we learn how to navigate this in a way that allows us to just move through it and not be stuck here? Because that constant looping back of feeling like you're not there yet, or you're not enough yet, or once you get there you will ... that's holding us back from so much. And it's this really dichotomous feeling, because it's in so many ways I feel like I've overcome that, and then in some ways I feel like I'm back there and I'm overcoming it, and then I'm back. And so I'm a lot of you may be I've moved past that, but really ask yourself, do you ever go back? Do you ever think about the opposite, or come back to those feelings in your really down moments? And so this is really about that. So Spirit gave me 6 cards that all just kind of came out at once. So let's flip them over together and see what we got. This back actually kind of matches my shirt, which is pretty cool. Unintended. Okay, 5 of Swords is the first card. Ace of Swords. Okay, I was already kind of feeling okay, we're talking about mindset here. We're talking about our projections onto the situation. And then with the Ace of Swords following it up, that's even more true. This idea of basically the universe calling you out and constantly bringing you back to the truth, right? Not so much the fluffy stuff that we want to put on top of things, but always getting down to the bare bones of how you truly deeply feel. And I also think I'm completely against spiritual bypassing. I think humanity as a whole is a messy experience. I don't ever think the goal is to get to a place where nothing bad ever happens and we're only ever happy. I think that's almost non-spiritual, because we have to sit with all the emotions that come up with being human. We have to be present with them. We have to remind ourselves that it's okay as we experience them. And so I just wanted to remind you that that's the place that I'm coming from. And as much as I say Spirit is kind of, universal lessons are always coming to us, right? So we are always being shown the truth. We're always being reflected a lesson, or somewhere where we can go deeper, or somewhere where we're maybe being called out a little bit. But it feels like this feeling is consistently coming up as a way to redirect ourselves back to our truth, and to ask ourselves where is it that we are not being as honest as we want to be? And so while there's these good, like things that are happening, or you're growing in a certain way, you're expanding, you're seeing all these beautiful things happen, like new relationships, new friendships. Like you can see the healing in real time, and you can see what you've worked for in different areas of your life all coming together because of like the real evidence in your life. But there's still that thing that pulls you back. And constantly, the universe will bring us back to that core, back to that not good enough feeling, back to that true understanding of how we relate to ourselves until we are able to repeatedly grow out of it. And so I haven't even flipped over the cards yet, but I think this is like spirit basically reminding us, no matter what the external looks like, the deeper thing is always going to be there. The deeper lesson, the deeper story, it's always going to be there. And I think what I said earlier about how this is a part of the human experience, maybe part of it is making peace with that, right? It's almost like maybe we'll always have a little bit of this push and pull. Maybe we'll always have a little bit of that like imposter syndrome or whatever you want to call it when we are on our journey to creating something bigger. But maybe we don't even need to look at it as a problem. And that's a really interesting thing to come up. Okay, another swords card. I got the Knight of Swords. I'm just gonna flip all these over because like I just want to know the full picture. The Chariot, the Magician, and the Ace of Pentacles. Okay, so literally the bookends of this reading are two aces, the Ace of Swords and the Ace of Pentacles, which is interesting. Okay, wait. Me saying that and pointing that out just like brought up the whole reading. Okay, so we have all these swords, right? It's the way that you see the world. It's the way that your projection is showing up in the world. Again, that lesson that's being reflected back to you is born out of your own mindset, your own like perspective, right? But with the Chariot and the Magician kind of in the middle here, it's like, okay, there is a big chapter and I feel like you're in this or you're in the Magician phase. This chapter of redirection, the Chariot being redirection of those thoughts, and also like a redirection of a reopening is what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing. I'm kind of seeing the Fool card, and then I'm also seeing the Eight of Swords, like her pulling out all the swords around her, but then also with the Fool, like jumping off the edge. That is what the Chariot is kind of bringing to mind. Like this willingness to open up. That's what it is, because you have to have that willingness. You have to have that ability to believe beyond what you already know, what you've already experienced. And as the black sheep, as the cycle breaker, as the outsider, as the person that's been the scapegoat, or that's been, the person that everyone wants to blame, but no one's actually there for, like all of these repeated experiences have taught you how to not trust other people. They've taught you that other people will betray you inevitably. They've taught you that you have to be on your own because that's the only way you're going to survive, that you have to keep your emotions to yourself, that you have to swallow everything that comes at you, because if you express it or try and have a conversation, it's just not going to go well, and it's going to honestly end up worse for you. Like all of these constant repeated lessons, especially in childhood. And that's like the nice version of it, right? Like that's like a kind, like even that's a little bit sugar coated, but there were so many deeper things that you went through that happened that of course you're going to have to build up this kind of mindset. First of all, not just to survive, but even in life to carry you through. Like a part of you was numb, and even like this disconnection between mind and body, I'm really getting drawn to that. Like I remember when I was very first realizing that I'm the black sheep, that I have these toxic experiences, these like horrible things that no one should have gone through. I went through them when I was young and alone and scared. And as I was waking up to all of that, I started waking up to how numb my body was. I was disrespecting my body. I was not taking care of it the way that I should have been. I was just, and I couldn't even feel my emotions or name my emotions or connect to where I was. And I feel like a lot of you have probably experienced that or started healing from that or been on a long healing journey from like recognizing that. But a lot of us have this numbness in our bodies, or this like disconnect between our mind and our body, because we were not allowed to feel. Our bodies did not feel safe. So we had to shut off so much of those pain receptors, so much much of those communicators between mind and body, because our bodies knew that where we were wasn't right, but we couldn't do anything about it. So we had to contort our mind to make sense of what we were going through. And then, even in the processing and undoing of that, it is still just as complicated. It is still just as up and down to be waking up and to realize all of these things. And as we are waking up in the present moment, we then have to wake up and reconnect to all of these younger versions of ourselves, because part of our body and part of our mind is still there, right? It's like common knowledge in when people speak of trauma, that trauma freezes you in certain developmental stages based on like how old you were when you experienced them. And so if you are experiencing trauma for an extended period of time, I mean, that results in complex PTSD many times. It can have so many other kind of different effects on your body than it being one single incident. But the idea of being frozen in time, or having these kind of developmental delays, or, all of these different things, like a lot of that speaks to this separation of like these swords cards and this heaviness and this constant hypervigilance, compared to this, where it's not like this is so much better and everything's perfect, but moving from the Ace of Swords to the Ace of Pentacles, we're moving into a physical reality. We're moving more into our bodies. And so this journey of this like feeling, that this recurring feeling of not being good enough, of when is the ball gonna drop, of when are things going to fall out from under me, when can I trust that this good thing is gonna last, how long do I have to prove to myself that something is gonna work out, how am I supposed to make all these moves without knowing how it's going to turn out or what's going to happen. Like that whole physical process is an undoing of this, right? And they constantly inform each other, because every step of this, you're bringing up this. You can have all these beautiful things that happen around you, but you you have to be able to contain them. And as you contain them and you start expanding and opening up to all the beautiful things that are coming your way, you have to cut off the negative. And this is kind of like obvious, but I'm hearing like that one in, one out, like the thing of like making sure you're not over consuming or whatever, by like when you buy one thing you get rid of something else, or like whatever, wherever that policy or like idea came from. It feels like that, but for your thoughts. As things grow and become more physical, you will have to confront this massive cycle of thoughts that are telling you to doubt yourself, that are telling you to be stuck in fear, that are bringing up every worst case scenario, or catastrophizing every single like situation, and only thinking about what's the worst that could happen. That Well, also, when you think about the worst thing that could happen in any situation, you are literally constantly attaching yourself to the only possibility being the worst possibility. And so that's a separate aside, but maybe someone needed to hear that. But as the good comes, the negative comes up too, to meet it. It's like this tectonic like shift, this like battle of like, and like something new wants to make way, and I'm here to stay. And also like, but we never could trust you, we never could believe you. Every time we made room for you and backed down, you went away, and someone had to fill the gap. And so I had to keep coming up, because every time I trusted that you would be there, you left me. And every time I am now expanding for something beautiful to come my way, because I have been healing, because I have been growing, because I have been confronting myself. Now I'm moving and making space, but also like now this side of me doesn't feel like it's being heard, and it doesn't feel like it wants to shrink down, because every time it did that, it had to come back up to fill in the gap, right? Like, I hope this is making sense, and I hope like that visual wasn't that weird. I don't know, but I like, that's the way I see it in my mind. It's like there has to be 100%, right? And so when one side goes from saying I'm going to be at 50 to only showing up at 20%, the other side has to overcompensate. And so that's what's been happening with this push and pull situation of like, oh, the external circumstances here. Okay, great. I'm going to make room for it. But then in your past, because of that betrayal, because of that inability to actually rely on someone, all the times you've been let down, all the times that that rug has been pulled out from under you, all the times that you thought you were healing your relationship with your family and then they made it so much worse. You found something out that was unforgivable. All of those times, that has caused this like mental hypervigilant, like overactive, cannot rest, cannot relax, like cannot, let go of control, cannot open myself up to trust. It's caused that side to have to show up. And because you spent so long relying on that part of yourself to get through that, like grit your teeth and I'm going to get through it no matter what, that feeling, you relied on it for so long that it's like the strongest part of you, right? It's like if every part of you inside, it like inside out, right? You have these different emotions and you have these different parts of you, and these different parts of you have different needs, and the more that you let one of them run the show, the stronger it is, the more muscle it has, the more space it takes up. And so now you're like trying to wrangle that one back with the other versions of you that are a little bit weaker, and you just have to keep re-inviting them to the front. And the other big thing that was coming up too is like this idea of, the external thing shows up and you're wondering, can I trust it? Part of that question is also coming up because you're not supposed to trust the external thing. Like, yes, you're supposed to trust that, things are going to show up for you, but that trust is ultimately in yourself. That trust has to be in you always being able to get yourself through any situation because you've already proved to yourself that you can and that you will and that you have. And that it doesn't matter what the one single opportunity is. It doesn't just even matter who that one person is, even if they're the love of your life. It always comes back to you being able to trust in yourself. You being able to know that no matter what, you can hold yourself. You have so much practice dealing with the worst stuff. So stop imagining the worst case scenario and start imagining like the better case scenario or the middle ground or the best case scenario if you can like live there and handle it. And I don't mean handle it in like a douchey way. I just mean like, if you're constantly like, it's hard to go from the worst to the best. Sometimes it doesn't feel believable. And so you think about it for 2 seconds and then you leave it behind. And so instead, like, this is how I have also helped a lot of clients like coach themselves through limiting beliefs. You don't have to go from I don't trust anyone or people always betray me to I trust everyone, I'm an open heart, I love everyone, everyone loves me, I'm never going to be wronged again. That's too big of a jump, and it also already isn't true in your life. So like a part of you is always going to fight it. Instead, you could say, well, I'm going to choose people who I know I can trust. Or I allow people, to show me that I can trust them. Allowing yourself in increments to go from that idea of people will always betray me and let me down and I can't trust anyone, move a little more on that spectrum to, okay, well, what is maybe pushing you a little bit, but you can still believe it? Well, I want to have people in my life that I can trust. I want to have people in my life I can rely on. Or, people do want to show up for me. I can rely on people. I am going to be okay, no matter what happens, but I want this community. Even admitting that to yourself, those incremental steps allow you to move from like the most limiting belief to like a slightly lesser limiting belief. And like you just move up, and as you start to embody all of those increments of change, that comes into your reality, right? And it also start, even if it's just confirmation bias, or even if it's just the placebo effect, you start to notice that more, you start to recognize it more. And then that's telling your brain and your body like, oh, this is here now. These things are showing up now. And like the more just like continue to obviously like create a whole different experience in your life in like the next few years, right? If you keep doing that and moving down that path, you ultimately will get to somewhere that feels a lot more stable. But that stability is you. That transition is you. That growth, that movement forward is you. It comes from your ability to be the bridge and to constantly turn yourself around from that hyper vigilant version of you that wants to control everything and run the show, and move yourself into that person that, yes, you know how to step into control, you know how to tell someone, you know how to set boundaries, you know how to set someone straight when it comes to how they treat you and what they're doing to you. But at the same time, they don't get overwhelmed by every little thing. They're not constantly burnt out. Their ability to hold the thing, to hold everything in their lives is growing. They become graceful. They become able to navigate their situations and see their strengths more than they are constantly focusing on their weakness. And that is the version of you that you are transitioning into. So the whole question was, why do I keep coming back to this feeling of like the shoe is going to drop, the rug is going to be swept out from under me, like I can't fully trust the good thing, or it's going to be so much better there even though I already have everything that I was praying for. Like, what is going on here? And really the answer is like, it is coming up for you to continually, like, not weaken, but move that part of you that wants to run the show out of the way. The practice is that, like I said before, you are the transition, you are the bridge. So again, like, I'm almost seeing like one of those like 5 ink color pens that used to be like really popular. Like, you would push down the red one for the red pen to come out, or like the blue one or the green one, but it would be like one pen. It's like that, but the parts of you, right? So you've been using this black ink for too long. Like, you've got to let it go, and you've got to let a new version of yourself kind of come into play. And you've got to learn that you can toggle between these new versions and these new realities, but you will always have that hyper vigilant version of you, or that version of you that had to fight. That fighter is always going to be in there. That version is always going to be a skill set that you have and something that you're capable of. But ultimately, a bigger part of you now wants to trust. A bigger part of you now wants to live in your purpose. A bigger part of you knows that if you are not in your purpose, if you are not living the mission that you have for yourself, if you are not creating, if you are not becoming what it is that you are supposed to, living up to the roles that you see for yourself, that the universe has guided you towards, if you are not prioritizing that, then you are almost like wasting your time. Like, you are finally starting to see the value in everything that you are and everything that you have been taught to be, everything that you've learned to work towards. And you've had that on such a pedestal for so long that it doesn't make sense now to bring it back down, because now you're getting there and you're kind of afraid, and because you're getting there, now that pedestal has to be brought down and another one has to be put up because you always have to look up to something. No. That's what we're changing. That's the feeling. And like, this whole time I've struggled with like articulating, what is this feeling? Because it's not even so much being up there or thinking that you're not enough. Like, that's a big part of it, but it's not the whole thing. And it's this idea of always having a new pedestal. It's this idea of like, when you get to that pedestal that you previously had for yourself, now that's nothing. Now that was easy. Now that was too simple. Now that doesn't mean anything, because there's another one up there for you to look at and for you to strive towards. And so you constantly get to where you wanted to be, and then you diminish that to look up at something else. And that's it. That's what we're changing. That's what we have to leave behind, is like, you are learning that you are valuable. You are seeing that you are the only one that could do this specific set of things. You're the only one that could be that parent and live that creative life. You are the only one that can be child free and, show up for your community and do your art in the way that you are meant to. You are the only one that can create this new startup, or, that can take your life like in this next chapter of your life and actually make it what you've always wanted. You are the only one that can do that, but you have to also value that purpose, that role, value where you are, and value how much work it took for you to get here, so that as you do have continuous goals, which is natural, or things that you want to accomplish, things that you want to see for your community. Like, when I say goals, I don't even necessarily mean personal goals. This could be about where you want to see humanity go, the kind of world that you are trying to build. Like, a lot of these goals can be very communal, but those things that you are trying to build, that you are trying to form a community around. That is so valuable, and it's almost like wasting your time when you don't do them. And the more that you remind yourself of that, the more that you remind yourself that your value is tied to those things, and that you know that that thing is valuable because you've sacrificed everything for it. You've done all these things for it. So you are valuable too. You never downplayed the mission itself, but you kept downplaying yourself, and you kept downplaying yourself in relation to this mission. It's like the mission is the sun, and like you're over here thinking that you're Pluto. And you're not. You're not Pluto. You're not far off here, like in this cold, dark, like you are a solar flare. You are part of the sun. You are connected. You are of it. And so to be of that brightness, of that light, of that purpose, to be of the essence of the thing that you are, like the mission wouldn't be here if you weren't here. The mission is you, but it's almost like the solar flare is the mission and you are the sun, and you've been thinking you're Pluto. No, I honestly feel like I can take a huge breath now. I really needed to get that message out and off my chest, and I wasn't even planning on recording this now. I was also like, I have a couple other decks here next to me, and I thought I was gonna pull like plenty of cards. Honestly, these 6 cards like said it all. Like so much came out, and yeah, I don't know. A lot of like sometimes I really don't even need cards. I just start channeling. Oh my god, I feel like I'm like coming back into my own body, which is funny because I was talking about that numbness at first. Okay, I wanted to pull a couple of affirmation cards to end this message. I am reclaiming my childlike sense of wonder. And yeah, this is really like, first of all, how cute is this little guy next to our froggy friend here? But what was I going to say? Oh, I feel like you are reclaiming your sense of play. And that's something that I'm really encouraging you to like tap into this week. Like looking at your purpose from a sense of fun, from a sense of joy, from a sense of just, like I said, play, and being able to have fun with it and notice where you've become really, really serious about your goal and your mission, because of course it's serious and it's something that you truly do love, and it should be something that you take seriously, but you've proven that you have discipline around it. So that doesn't need to be the focus. Like you've overly proven that you have discipline and that you take things seriously. But how long can you stay in that 10 of Wands energy where you're carrying up this, like pushing this boulder up a hill? Like you can't stay in that energy forever. And so it's a constant, like I'm seeing the Temperance card in my mind, right? This constant need for balance is coming up. And as you start to notice, like, okay, everything is becoming fueled by anger and resentment and determination, and I'm gritting my teeth and trying to get through it, just like that hypervigilant version of me tends to do. Okay, now I need to call myself back in and ask myself, where does that balance need to come up from? And if you're in that energy, it needs to come from play. If you are in a place where you are not taking anything seriously and skirting things and not making yourself proud in the way that you know that you could, not even doing the bare minimum, that's when you need to add that sense of seriousness back in. So it's a constant coming into balance, but just berating yourself and shaming yourself into growth or into following your purpose is not it. That's never worked. That's never gonna work. The doubt has never made you like, it's never done anything for you, right? Maybe at a certain point you had to alchemize the doubt in order to in order to get through it, but like, and you will consistently be able to use that power of alchemy to get yourself from one emotion to another, but at the same time there's other things that you can rely on. So learn to lessen that grip on that doubt and on that fear. And let's see what our next affirmation card says. I am willing and excited to grow and learn. Okay, how cute. Little cutie. Yeah, and also this card is so playful. This whole deck is so playful. But yeah, anyways, I felt like that was adding on to that energy. But yeah, looking at it as, again, a growth mindset, learning how to recognize the progress that you have made and not make everything so black and white. It's not that you're failing if you haven't succeeded, right? And I talked about that in a reading, in the last couple of readings, I think. The final message that's coming through with this affirmation card, I'm willing and excited to grow and learn, is this idea that you have the maturity and the capability to, within reason, be grateful for a lot of the experiences that you have. And I'm talking about like the lessons that you have, the minor inconvenience. I'm not talking about state sanctioned anything. I'm not talking about I think you know what I mean. Like these like smaller personal lessons that come up, these things that come up in our day-to-day lives that trigger us or that bring out a side of ourselves that we're not proud of or that make us constantly feel like we should doubt ourselves or we should be experiencing fear. That's what I mean. But you are capable enough and strong enough and mature enough and healed enough, quote unquote, to have gratitude for what those things are doing for you. And it's so interesting that this message just came up because that literally happened to me earlier today. I was really triggered by something in my daily life coming up that was like, I did not consent to this, but it affects my daily life. And I don't really have that much control over it. Like it was just like, and it's not, it was related to work. I'll just say that. And not this job, but separate, my full-time job. And I was just like immediately like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? And that one part of me was like, you have to escape, you have to figure out what to do, like you can't be here anymore, and like all these things. And then the other part of me was like, okay, you know what, I'm gonna stay calm. I'm gonna try do what I need to regulate myself. I'm gonna treat myself this afternoon for like getting through this weird day and doing it well. And I'm also going to take a step back. Sorry, dog's barking. I'm going to take a step back and see what's the wisest thing I can do. How can I make this situation work for me? How can I use it for my benefit? And there's already some ways that I've seen how this has inspired me to make a certain move or to think about something differently. That was kind of like the last big message that's coming through this channel is, you are wise enough. You are capable enough to not be immediately reactive and to take just that minute, that extra step, that extra deep breath and ask yourself like, what really is, like, how can I always be the smartest one? And something that has gotten me through like one of my most toxic jobs that I ever had years ago and a lot of really difficult situations where I felt stuck was trickster energy. Right? So tap into that. Again, this idea of playfulness, this childlike wonder, this I'm excited to grow and learn. Like, how can you like be funny about it, right? Like what would like a silly fairy do? What would like a silly goblin do in that situation? Like, it's almost like the idea of like malicious compliance, right? Like you're doing the thing, you're not doing anything wrong, but you're pointing out the absurdity of it all. And something about that kind of energy is really fun and also like can really help you get back into your power when you're in a place where you feel like you're stuck in a corner and you can't get out. So that's the channel. My books for August are open. I have a lot of time slots open because I wanted to give you options, but I can only take on 3 clients, one-on-one clients in August. So that includes hour and half-hour long Zoom tarot readings and self-worth coaching sessions. I just have so much going on. I don't have the capacity to take on more clients than 3 individual sessions. So if you are interested in working with me, there's a very small gap to be able to do that. Go to blacksheepexperience.com. My booking calendar is there. You can learn more about what I do. If you have any questions, you can always email me at roshni@blacksheepexperience.com. That is also where you can talk to me about sliding scale options. So if you are interested in working with me but need sliding scale options or details, please don't be afraid to reach out. I appreciate when people reach out to me and ask me that, and then we can figure out something that works for you. So I am sending you so much love. If you live in Colorado and you want to see where you can get an in-person reading from me, join my email list. I am posting my vending events and in-person events there on my email list. So that is for you if you're in the Colorado area. And with that being said, I love you so much. Remember that you are worthy, whether you believe it or not.